Hey guys, welcome to the channel. This is part 2 of What If Naruto was a pervert in Highschooldxd. If you guys enjoy this what if, then comment, like and subscribe. Let's go. Also the video goal is 10 likes, so let me know that you're interested in the series and you want the next part. Then go ahead and check out the other what ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave. Also share the video with your friends and link in the description. So let's go. Everyone was silent except for the girls that were lamenting what happened. Team Rias's mouths hung open as they tried to process what had happened. Issei was already passed out and almost got disqualified due to massive blood loss because of what was the biggest nosebleed ever. The chicken for the first time in his life was at a loss for words. He never expected this level of perverseness to happen, let alone to his peerage. That perverted dragon emperor was one this, but this is just too much. And Naruto, what was he doing? Flash flash flash. Oh yeah, he was busy taking pictures with a wicked grin on his face. Guest viewing room. The guests were all silent. What the hell just happened here? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't believe what I am seeing, but all I can say is this is a feast for the eyes, a bonanza, he he he. Shit, shut the hell up you stupid mouth, came the voice of the announcer as he clearly wasn't doing his job. And was that a perverted giggle? This clearly woke everyone up. Okay, let me be the one to say this. Best rating game ever, commented a male guest with blood flowing out of his nose. Well, now looking at the room, it seems 99.9%. Okay, 100% of all males were experiencing nosebleeds for some reason. Most of the women were red with anger and brows violently twitching. The minority were either having a nosebleed or clearing having fun. Oh man, I can wait for the next rating game this team is in, and I hope the team they are up against will have more females in it, came another enthusiastic comment from another guest. The Phoenix and the Grimoire families were having a bad day. One had their son's peerage thoroughly humiliated and the other was clearly embarrassed by what their daughter's pawn was doing. Right now we find a fuming Lady Phoenix with a flaming fist standing over her husband, who was on the floor almost unconscious with a bleeding nose. Pervert was the only word she shouted. With the Grimoire, honey, I think we need to talk to our daughter about how to properly represent the clan. Lady Grimoire spoke to her husband while her eyes were glued on the screen. All she received was silence. Honey, did you hear me? She turned, and what did she find? Her husband had a pervy grin on his face and a nosebleed, his mind clearly somewhere in fantasy land. Like all women who see their husbands, she clobbered him into the ground. All Lord Grimoire uttered was, "This is better than those porno magazines those humans read," before he passed out from the blow or nosebleed, we never know. With the rest of the rookie four. Oh my Mao. What the hell is this? This isn't a fight, it's pure molesting of the highest level. There is no way I will fight her peerage unless they get rid of him. Shouted a horrified Sikvera. What she was seeing, she definitely did not want to suffer. Sona just nodded in agreement, trying to fight off a blush coming to her face. The rest of Sona's peerage was red-faced with embarrassment from what they saw. Only Saji was out cold with a nosebleed equaling that of Issei. Well, you gotta hand it to those guys, it was a brilliant and devious plan if I say so myself. Pissing off the enemy, getting them in one place, making them focus on one person while the others conserve energy, and taking them out in one swoop while making sure the king doesn't interfere. It was a brilliant plan, even I could have fallen for that, commented Saraorg while taking a few sniffs, his eyes glued to the screen. Saraorg, what is that running from your nose? Asked his queen in an all too sweet voice that promised pain and more pain if the answer is unsatisfactory. The man in question started to sweat as he looked away and quickly wiped his nose, but all it did was smear the liquid across his face and hand. Oh, it's nothing, no need to worry about it, he replied, his voice lacking the confidence he was had when he came in. His reply just increased the aura of doom behind his queen. Then what's that on you, hand and nose? Tomato sauce, he he he, Saraorg replied as he laughed nervously. Then he screamed as he got the crap beaten out of him. In the history of rating games, this was the only one where guests ever needed to be attended by healers, either from being beaten or from nosebleeds. The patients were treated in the room because, conscious or not, they all refused to leave the room. With the Mao. Sniff Searsex sniff, what the hell were you teaching that kid? Sniff, sniff, talked Akuja as he also wiped blood from his nose. He might be one of the most powerful and calm and a scientist, but the scene before him was enough to make even him experience his fist nose bleed. Why are you asking me for sniff? I have sniff no idea how he did that or who taught him that sniff. Good thing my wife isn't here, otherwise I would be dead, ouch, replied hsdxd before he got punched into the ground by his queen. When your wife is not around I am in charge of disciplining you, replied an amused Graphia as she turned to watch the match. Oh, why did they not have this guy on the battlefield during the war? It would have made war fun. Ya go Naruto strip them all naked, shouted the ever-cheerful Serafal. Boobs z's. How is that even possible, and is he having a nosebleed in his sleep? Back to the molesting. So what caused all this chaos on the field and to the guests? Well, the answer came from Serafal actually. The beam did not hurt the girls in any way. It just melted all of their clothes and armor for those wearing it. What's worse was that Naruto had stolen their undergarments and now everyone can see their unmentionables, hehehehe. Even worse still, Tentacles-kun was getting all excited, his tentacles snuggling in all the wrong places, simulating a tentacle monster bondage fetish scene. It was very erotic actually, hence the nosebleed chaos. Rias was the first to recover from the shock. She thought that they would take them out with a destructive attack, not this. Stripping all these girls of their underwear then their clothes was just too much, and it wasn't doing anything for their reputation. And Tentacles-kun was making it even worse. What the hell kind of attack was that? She shouted at Naruto, who ignored her in favor of taking pictures. Uzumaki-senpai mega pervert, came the even more monotone voice from Kaneko. My dress break is no match for his techniques, said the miraculously recovered Issei as he sat down drawing something with huge dark rain clouds hovering above him. Sniff, this is too much senpai, sniff, came the shy voice of Kiba, prompting his teammates to quickly look at him. The poor boy was looking away, but he was stealing a few glances here and there. His face was all red, whether from embarrassment or something else. The most surprising thing that caught his teammates' attention was the few drops of blood licking from his nose. Naruto, seeing this, developed a huge grin on his face as he suddenly teleported in front of Kiba. He was now wearing Emperor Palpatine's outfit and was imitating him by creepily rubbing his hands together with a creepy dark laugh. Issei had also joined in with his own Palpatine worshipper regalia. Yes, Kiba, just one more push and you will join us in the pervert side. Together we shall be known as the new fearsome pervert trio. We shall spread chaos and terror among the female populace. POW Naruto could finish his speech as he and Issei found their faces meeting the ground courtesy of Kaneko. Ouch, so close, mourned Issei, his face still in the ground. Ya man, we almost had him, replied Naruto before he was interrupted by his new partner. Ah partner, what's with the name you gave to my technique? I specifically remember it being called the Jade Dragon's Roar, not whatever it is you called it. Ranted his partner Zirconis. Honestly, this was his debut and he wanted to make a good first impression. Jade Dragon was here so he had to show off a little, but that buffoon had to ruin it. You know you are a dragon, right? Gets a yes, and you are a pervert, right? Gets an absolutely, hence the name Perverted Dragon's Roar. And this shut Zirconis up whether he wanted to argue or not. But don't worry, I have a feeling your friend is going to get a name for himself too, Naruto said, referring to Jade Dragon. It was only a matter of time before Issei's pervy tendencies get Jade Dragon a nickname which will humiliate him. His musings were interrupted when the announcer announced that all of Razor's pawns, bishops and knights have just retired. He, oh how he loved it when a good plan comes together. Razor very much pissed off. His peerage were eliminated in one go and without sustaining any dangerous injury. They asked to be eliminated and the announcer had the gall to comment that they were eliminated for their naked exhibitionist tendencies. That announcer just officially made number 2 on his list of people to kill, that perverted pawn being number 1. But then he smirked when he noticed that he still had a team member left. Boom grr. Tentacles-kun shrieked in pain when he was blasted by the bomb queen, forcing him to let her go. She then quickly withdrew from danger as she tried to cover herself. No way, she actually stayed to fight, sniff, Naruto shouted in shock while wiping off the blood running from his nose. He thought that all of them would give up after being stripped naked in front of everyone. That's a mistake on his part, not counting there being that type of girl. And the chicken was wearing an arrogant smile to boot. You see, fool, this is what I call loyalty. No matter what, loyal pieces always come to the aid of their master regardless of the condition they are in. I am going to have to discipline the others when we get back, said the chicken. Now those words shocked everyone, even the retired pieces who were given clothes and decided to watch from the med bay away from the rest of the guests. I am Razor Sama's queen, I fight for him even if I am not dressed, the queen added to her master's words. Okay, something is seriously wrong with that girl. Wow, now that's a queen. Say Aki-chan if your clothes happen to. Naruto didn't finish. Akino swiftly cut him off with a big fat no. He tried Rias and got the same response. Kaneko just raised her fists giving him the answer he needed, and he didn't ask Asia. The girl was just too sweet to ask that. Okay then, if nudity doesn't deter you then I will just have to convince you through some other means, Naruto said darkly as a dark aura surrounded him. He looked at the queen with an unreadable expression as she prepared to fight. He was a pawn and she was a queen, and without any clothing for him to perform his perverted techniques on, he has nothing that can scare her. Razor just instructed his queen to make it as painful as possible, while Naruto instructed his team not to interfere. The two faced off with Naruto covering his hands with a strange liquid electric substance that their girls from his peerage recognized. They felt a shiver run down their spines at the thought of that technique being used on them. They felt sorry for the poor girl if that technique ever reached her. Okay, foolish girl, I am going to do something that your master failed to do. This technique is a technique only exclusive to me, and even if it could be taught, no matter how much money you offer me, I will never teach it to anyone ever. Naruto proclaimed as he dodged some spells that exploded where he used to occupy. He took off into the air, maneuvering between the spells the bomb queen was throwing at her. Seems she was pretty determined to blow him to smithereens, and she was pretty confident she could do that because she was a queen and he was a pawn. Okay, time to change her mind and show her that in a world where he comes from, rank means jack. So he increased his speed mid-flight and disappeared from her view. The girl tried to locate him, and when she did it was too late, he was right behind her. Razor's eyes widened at how a simple pawn could move fast enough to outmaneuver a queen. Said girl froze when she felt a presence behind her. She thought she had the advantage, but he was much faster than her. Touch of the arrow god. Yubeluna braced herself for an attack but was confused when she felt his hand graze her back. And then it happened. She didn't know what happened, but whatever it was, it felt so good. Her brain turned to mush in an instant, her legs felt like jelly, her body temperature shot up and her breath became labored. All in all, she was feeling great well until she felt the dampness between her legs. That's when they realized what happened. Razor again was at a loss for word, and so were the guests. What the hell just happened? His queen just cummed in front of everyone with a simple touch. What the hell kind of technique is that? Naruto then took the opportunity to get behind the girl and started playing with her fun bags, all the while the girl was moaning like there was no tomorrow. Team Rias was just gawking at the scene. Asia tried to cover her eyes, but the huge gap between her fingers and the blush said otherwise. The other girls were spotting serious blushes on their facing while resisting the urge to rub their legs together. Issei and surprisingly Kiba were running rivers of blood from their noses. In the guest room there was chaos as most of the guests' males hit critical and needed immediate hospitalization, but they still refused to leave. Naruto gentle landed with the girl while he was still playing with her boobs. He looked at Razor with a smug look. You see, Razor, I did something that your chicken worm failed to do with just my hands, no less, commented Naruto while supporting the girl who was now limp in his hand because of brain overload. Maybe he went too far on this one. Meh, as long as they get rid of her. He made a move to put the girl down, but she then held him in an iron grip. More, whispered the girl with lust-filled eyes. Hey, could repeat that, I didn't quite hear you, asked Naruto as he cleared his ears. He heard her, but he just wanted to make sure that he wasn't hearing things. I want more, give me more, shouted the girl as she drew closer to Naruto with renewed strength. This shocked everyone on the field, more so Naruto. Heh, what? Shouted the surprised Naruto as he tried to get away from the girl. Bad move, because the girl developed a look that reminded him of a predator that enjoys chasing its prey. Oh, how could he forget that this technique could backfire on him? Kaneko went nuts with just the washed-down version of this technique. This one is going bonkers. Naruto then took off with the girl hot on his heels. The girl was shouting something about getting a hold of him so they could begin the experiments and other crazy stuff. It was a weird scene to behold. I mean, a young man with raging hormones running away from a naked chick who wants to give him some. Yeah, truly a weird sight to behold. The scene ended with Yubeluna being drop-kicked by an annoyed and blushing Kaneko. Then the other girls came in and stomped her big time to make sure she doesn't magically revive again. Or was it that she was having something they wanted but couldn't voice it? Guest viewing room. The room was in a state of chaos again. And it was worse than the first time too. Why, you ask? I don't care how much you have to pay, just learn that technique. Were the words many wives were shouting while manhandling their husbands who were on the brink of actually dying of blood loss. Oh, did I mention that the wives also had nosebleeds from the erotic scene that just played out? Every woman wanted their spouses to possess that technique. Every girl was either changing their underwear or wiping their noses while making plans to get a hold of that technique or somehow kidnap the owner of that technique and lock him up in a basement somewhere. The Ice Queen Graphia wasn't doing much better. Her cheeks were flushed and she seemed to be fidgeting for obvious reasons. Our favorite magical garment girl was also contemplating on changing her garments since they were not so magical anymore. Lord Phoenix and Lord Grimoire were also in the same predicament with their wives as they, politely, asked them to acquire that technique. Yap, way better than those porn magazines, mumbled Lord Grimoire in La La Land. Best rating game ever. Ya, total chaos, and our favorite blonde didn't even know that he would soon be worshipped as the arrow god. Back to the field. Naruto, seeing his part done, went back to his team. Well, that over so high, 5 inches, he said to the girl who with light speeds moved away from him. Get away from us. Don't touch us, were the responses from the girls. So Naruto tried his bros. They won't leave him hanging, will they? Forget it. Keep your hands to yourself. Poor Naruto was left hanging and he had no idea why. Because no one wants to do what they saw the chicken's queen did. The announcer then announced that Razor's queen had just retired, leaving Razor all alone against Rias' entire peerage. Rias, forgetting all the weird stuff that just happened, couldn't believe that the plan actually worked. She never expected all of them to survive this far in good shape. The plan was crazy, but crazy was what they needed and they pulled through. Only one huddle left and they are home free, but this huddle is a big one. Razor. Razor was gritting his teeth as he saw his queen eliminated, and in the most humiliating way possible. Never had he expected this to happen. This was supposed to be walk in the park, not this massacre that just happened. He looked at Rias and saw the girl was now even more confident than before. It was like this was all planned and he fell for it. You might be wondering why your counter plan didn't work when you had me all figured out. To answer you, it's quite simple. I didn't come up with the plan, he did, she said as she pointed to Naruto, who was wearing his trademark foxy grin. Now that got Razor's attention. He thought he was going against Rias, but in reality he was going up against a pawn and his plan was crushed too. This is humiliating to a high-class devil like him. In the wise words on me in another place, you just got foxed, dude. Never mess with the fox. Anyway, I see that you are ready for our final showdown. So is the culture in the human world. When the final battle is about to be fought, we exchange last words in case one of you dies. I was hoping you could read mine out loud, Naruto said while he put his hand into his left pocket looking for something. The other members of his team just looked at him like he had grown a second head. There was no custom like that in the human world, so what was he planning? Razor won't be that stupid to fall for that. They saw Naruto fishing out a card from his pocket, then he flew to Razor before he handed it to him. They quickly flew back. Razor looked at the card suspiciously, then looked at the words, or rather word written on it, before he read it aloud, not thinking anything of it. He thought it was in a weird human tongue and he was confused as to what it meant. He is bird-brained after all. Kaka-dodo-do. He read, ellipsis dot, ellipsis dot dot, ellipsis. It started slow, but after a while it became full-blown laughter. Oh man, who knew tricking people could be so much fun. Even the stoic Kaneko was laughing, and that was saying something. Issei not being the most subtle of the bunch. Ha 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 ha, the rooster just crowed, ha ha ha, that just proved that he is a chicken. The boy laughed like there was no tomorrow. Honestly, the dude just did them a favor and proved himself a chicken to the rest of the demon world. He just embarrassed himself and his entire family. In the guest viewing room, things weren't easy for the Phoenix family after everyone recovered from blood loss. Everyone heard their son crow like a chicken. Everyone from the most prominent families. The guests were trying to be as polite as possible by hiding their laughter, but it came out as a bunch of snickers. Sarah Fall not so much, she was laughing her guts out while imitating a rooster. They were now starting to regret ever inviting guests. They should have left it as a private function. Razor was pissed. He was red-faced, shaking in rage. You could see smoke coming out of his ears. He let loose a burst of his power which ignited into hot flames, breaking everyone from their laughing fit. Okay, everyone take your positions, Naruto instructed. He and Kaneko took the front while Kiba and Issei made the second line of defense. Rias and Akeno stood back with Asia behind them so that they could protect their healer. Who knew that bad guys can give you some ideas? Thank you Pain for the idea, even though ended up in a lot of pain. So what's the plan? Rias asked. She knew that the real battle was about to start and they still haven't figured out how to take the chicken down. It's simple really. We knock him out. Kiba will be a bit useless for this one, but his ice sword will be useful. All we need is to cause blunt force trauma to the guy to knock him out. Which means for those going in hand to hand, target the face, back of the head, neck, ribs and solar plexus. This will deliver massive amounts of pain which will hopefully knock him out. The others will run support while damaging him, forcing him to use more power to heal himself until he runs out. So Neko-chan, you take point on this one. Naruto explained. Guest viewing room. The guests knew that the real fight was about to begin. The formation Rias team took signified that they already had a plan for this. All the shenanigans in the room stopped as everyone waited with bated breaths for the fight to begin. You could feel the tension in the air and anticipation was dancing in the viewers' eyes. The time for fun and games was over. Now it's time for fists to do the talking. The climax of the battle was about to begin. Two teams face off. Or we could say one individual representing his humiliated team vs 7 people from Team Rias. Who will win? Somewhere unknown, our mysterious figure, appeared in Chapter 4, was watching the rating game with a great deal of interest. The figure as well as the other deities that sent Naruto to this new world were all watching with great interest. They were all surprised by how Naruto handled himself against all odds. They were surprised by the effects the sacred gear had on Naruto. Who could have predicted that the boy would become a pervert of the highest order? Although the female deities didn't complain much after seeing Touch of the Arrow God technique in action. The males were however annoyed and jealous at the same time. They were supreme beings for goodness sake, and even they couldn't come up with a technique like this. What's worse, this human seems to have garnered that attention of a number of goddesses, even those who didn't have an interest in the opposite sex. But what they all agreed was that so far Naruto was proving himself to be quite the hero, even though the game wasn't over. Our mysterious figure knew that what Naruto did got him on the radar of a few powerful beings. What the figure saw also made it want to get its hands on Naruto even more. It just hoped that its pawn would either kill Naruto or make him fail. If this plan fails, then it would have to pay Naruto a visit. They have quite a few things to discuss. For now, time for a change of undergarments. That rating game was really intense, hehehe. Back to the rating game. Things were tense in the arena as Team Rias was about to face the only member of Team KFC left. Said member was pissed off with his power leaking out of him. If it wasn't for his freakish regenerative abilities, they would have had no problems at all. But that bloodline makes fighting him a pain in the neck. As for Naruto, he wasn't worried about himself but about his team. From the little time they trained together, to be more accurate, the little time he trained them, they had improved a bit but not to the standard he wanted them to be. If they had more time, things would have been different. That's why he had to focus on those individual abilities that would be incorporated into his plan. With the exception of him, Issei and Asia, the others had good teamwork, which he was so glad. Even when Issei, Asia and him were added, the team's dynamics was still good. Way better than the disaster that was Team 7. Man, that was one of the worst teams in shinobi history. The only reason they survived was because of his training with the 9 tails and sheer dumb luck. Otherwise they would have been dead on their first real mission. Kakashi was really a fool to not train them at all. Well, he wasn't going to make that mistake. We learn from experience, and Naruto's horrible experience with his former team told him that as soon as this was over he was going to put everyone through hell. He wasn't about to lose these guys, they have grown on him. At least miracles happen, right? He was about to employ the only skill Baka Kakashi ever taught him, even though he was bad at teaching said skill. Teamwork. Naruto took into account everyone's individual skill set, and from that during the training period he aimed to improve those skills. He knew that there were other abilities his team had, but they were either ashamed or afraid to use them. He would work on that later, but for now time to pound this chicken into minced meat. Alright Neko-chan, we are up, Naruto said, getting a nod from Kaneko as well as a small blush although he didn't see it. With that the two speed at Razor with incredible speeds which surprised the chicken. They were upon him in a few seconds with Naruto taking the lead. He delivered a kick to Razor's face who blocked it. Said kick was meant to block Razor's vision long enough for Kaneko to land a devastating punch to the chicken's gut, launching him into the ground, creating a crater. Razor looked up to see the two devils floating in the air with him on the ground. He didn't see what happened, all he knew was after he blocked the kick he felt a force which knocked the wind out of him in his gut, and the next thing is his body was regenerating while found himself in a cozy crater. Okay, so maybe they are a little good but he can take them on. He got up and prepared to blast off towards his victims. Before he could even get off the ground his wings were blasted by a stream of lightning and crimson energy. This disoriented him a bit, but it was enough to earn him an axe kick from Kaneko, destroying his head while driving his body into the ground. Before his head could fully reform he received another punch to the midsection by Naruto, knocking the wind out of him. Naruto then started raining blows to the midsection, inflicting a lot of pain. Razor then let loose a burst of flames that prompted Kaneko and Naruto to fly back. He got back up while panting a bit. He might regenerate at amazing speeds but he could still feel pain. Okay, time to retaliate. He shot straight at Naruto and threw a punch at him. He was surprised to see the pawn sidestepping his punch before he was kicked to the side of the head, launching him straight into the waiting arms, or punch to be exact, of Kaneko. Said girl delivered a wicked right hook to the poor bastard, launching back to Naruto, who stopped him with an elbow blow to his back. Naruto quickly delivered a suplex to the chicken. Mid-suplex Kaneko rushed in and jumped up, then stomped Razor's head, further driving him into the ground. Both teammates backed up to survey the damage they caused. They could see Razor's head flaming, meaning he was regenerating the damage they caused. They could tell his energy was decreasing from having to regenerate himself, but it was not fast enough. Plus they wanted to give the guy a concussion. How hard is it to give this guy a concussion? The answer, very hard, after they see the dude standing looking good as new. Guest viewing room. Almost every guest's mouth hung open as they watched the match. The show of skill and teamwork from Rias' team was amazing. The speed and strength displayed by the rook and pawn was very impressive, and coupled with the show of fighting skill left the audience blown away. What are they doing? Don't they know that they are fighting a member of the Phoenix clan? Those kinds of attacks don't work on him, commented Sikvera. Although she was impressed by the display of skill, she doubted that they would win with what they were doing. Sona on the other hand was analyzing the match intently. She also had the same thoughts as Sikvera. What Rias was doing wouldn't work. What they needed was either someone who could use holy magic or items, or a powerful sacred gear. They have it, but the user is not well trained to properly use it. The only option left was to use massive amount of power to deal a lot of damage, forcing the guy to run out of energy while regenerating. Her team could win if they utilized Saji's sacred gear. Rias was in a tough spot. She only wished her friend would pull through. Oh, that's clever. I see my cousin has a good strategy in mind, commented a grinning Saraorg as he had figured out what Rias was planning. The others looked at his with questioning looks, prompting him to sigh. Even though his fellow kings were powerful, they were not experienced fighters to notice what he noticed. And the pawn basically gave away the clue to defeating Razor. They are going to knock him out. His healing abilities can heal damage dealt to the body, but it cannot heal blunt force trauma. They are targeting areas that cause a great deal of pain while also dealing damage to the body, forcing him to heal himself. Everyone has a limit to the amount of pain they can take. It's only a matter of time before he succumbs to the pain, he explained as he saw his fellow kings don looks of realization. Who knew his cousin was this devious? Back to the fight. Razor brushed himself, having healed from the damage that had been done to him. He shook of his initial shock that led him to be pulverized as he analyzed the situation he is in. It seems the enemy has chosen to go for close quarter combat. Well, time to switch strategies then and go for long range. Razor fired a torrent of fire straight at Naruto and Kaneko. The two quickly backed away close to their teammates before a double-layered barrier was erected in front of them. They could see their king and queen raising their hands to sustain the barrier. Naruto nodded to the rest before he ran left while Kaneko took the right. Kiba and Issei ran straight at the barrier as the fire died down. Razor saw Naruto and Kaneko coming at him from different directions. He made the mistake of focusing on them before he received a gauntlet-covered hand from Issei. This momentarily stunned him long enough for Kiba to stab him with his ice sword, which froze his lower half. Naruto and Kaneko then got into action and started beating the shit out of Razor before his lower half could heal. Razor, seeing the dire situation he was in, released a massive wall of flames around him. The others got out safe, but Issei was a little slow and got some burns. He retreated back to Ria's group, where Asia casted her divine healing zone, which projected a 1.5 meter radius of healing aura. This was so that the team could be healed without having to stand in front of her while she healed them. Naruto, Kiba and Kaneko kept up the pressure, making sure that Razor didn't have time to make a solid plan or recover long enough to cast powerful spells. Rias and Akino kept supporting them with barriers and long-range attacks. Issei watched everyone doing their part and felt useless. He was the only one who was not doing any damage to the prick, even if he wanted to get his pound of flesh. Sensing his distress, Naruto decided to help him. "Yo Issei, get your head out of the cloud, will you? We need you. You feel powerless, I know the feeling. But you need to think about what you want to protect. What makes you want to become more powerful than what you are now? Find that and you will find a power you can't never imagine." Issei began to think about what he wanted to protect. What made him want to fight to the best of his ability and then some. His dream of being harem king filled with girls with all kinds of boobs. And so began the mantra in his mind, to which his sacred gear responded to. "Boobs, boobs, 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 boobs," screamed the boy like a maniac as he visualized boobs. Boobs of all shapes and sizes. As he did this, his sacred gear responded to its wielder's desires. Boost, 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 boobs, boobs, boobs. Ellipsis dot. You son of a bitch. This actually caused the fighting to temporarily stop as soon as they registered Jdrag's little slip up. "Ha ha ha, that was awesome, Jdrag. Now we are two of a kind. I think the Red Dragon Boob Emperor will suit you well." Zirconis didn't even miss a bit in humiliating that stuck-up prick. He and Albion, his rival, picked on him because he didn't like fighting and called him a pervert. Hey, now who has joined him in the pervert club? Naruto just shrugged as he went back to pulverizing the chicken. This was good. If the kid has gained that much power, then it good for them. So he struck Razor in the gut, launching him at Issei, who caught him with his new move, the Dragon Punch, which had enough power to drive Razor into the ground, creating a small crater. Rias and Akino then started bombarding the crater with their spells, forcing Razor to expend more energy, healing himself. Razor slowly got out of the crater looking a bit winded. He was preoccupied with glaring at his opponents. He missed the small Neko, who was standing in front of him with an impassive face as usual. All he heard was, "Nuts cracker," before his world blurred because of the pain he felt in his nether regions. The poor guy fell down clutching his man bits while the other males instinctively held theirs. This also gave Naruto another mischievous idea. He quickly got to Razor, who was trying to get up, and also made his attack known. Jade Dragon's nuts cracker, and a swift kick to the nuts, and Razor was back in the ground feeling so much pain. This was followed by Issei issuing his own attack, the Red Dragon's nuts stomp, which had him stomp Razor's nuts, delivering even more pain. This was then followed by Rias and Akino bombarding the area with destructive spells again. Asia was doing her best to heal them of their fatigue and somewhat restoring their energy. Razor slowly got up from the onslaught, looking worse for wear. He was healing, but it was much slower than before. You could also see a little bit of blood and bruises on his face. He also seemed to be failing to stand up straight, opting bend a little while widening his legs. He was shaky, almost like he could fall over unconscious anytime soon. It seems that even with the high regenerative abilities, a few kicks to the nuts and that regeneration meant jack when it comes to the pain. All in all, he seemed to be close to his breaking point, which was the outcome they were hoping for. Naruto was now feeling uneasy. Call it his shinobi sixth sense. He had a gut feeling that something was going to go horribly wrong. They were winning, that was clear, but Razor hasn't used that hidden power he sensed before they entered the battlefield. Somewhere unknown, the unknown figure sighed, seeing Razor's imminent defeat. What did the figure expect? Naruto is known in his dimension as a person that can get out of impossible situations. Razor was bound to fail sooner or later. Time to intervene. Razor, you fool, I told you not to underestimate him, and now you are barely even conscious to activate my gift. "Allow me to help you out," said the figure, sounding annoyed even from its distorted figure. It made a few motions which suspiciously looked like hand seals before a pulse of power was felt. Back to the fight. Naruto's eyes widened when he felt that hidden power starting to bubble outwards. It reminded him so much like what he used to be when he used the Nine Tails power. This power was off the charts. It was cold, it was lifeless, it was dangerous to the extent that it sent shivers down his spine. The power within Razor began to grow before it manifested in a tower of almost black flames that shot to the sky. The members of Team Rias backed away from the guy, but they were blown away by a powerful shock that came from the power-up. They decided to regroup and re-strategize, but Naruto could see that his teammates were scared. They had never faced anything of this magnitude before. To Naruto, he could compare it to the time he fought against the Ten Tails. In other words, they were totally outclassed. "What the hell? Where did he get all this power from?" shouted the almost hysteric Rias. The girl was shaking in fear and Naruto couldn't blame her. This power was scary as hell. It could give him a run for his money in Kyuubi mode before he fully synced with Kurama. This was the feeling I was telling you about when I said I have a bad feeling about this. When we met the second time, he felt different from how he felt before. He had a power which was sealed in him, and it seems someone broke the seal since he was almost unconscious to it himself. Naruto replied as he checked on his teammates to see if they were alright, mainly Asia. Issei had his masochist ability, so we'll be alright. They others had bumps and bruises, but otherwise they were okay. "So what do we do now?" came the most important question from Akino. Guest viewing room. "This is insane. Razor shouldn't have that kind of power. It's just not possible," shouted an equally shocked Sona. The other members of the rookies were also in shock. They knew Razor was powerful, but he didn't have this kind of power. Razor felt like he outclassed them. Even Saraorg would have a hard time fighting him. Even if went all out, he would lose only by a narrow margin. Saraorg loved to fight tough opponents, but he was not crazy to challenge that. His power feels like it bordering ultimate class devil in terms of quantity. But it feels strange. It feels like it's not his but someone else's, Saraorg commented as he analyzed the power Razor was giving off. "So he should be disqualified then?" Sona asked. She really wanted her friend to come out of this alive. It's not a matter of winning anymore, it's now a matter of surviving. Not necessarily. If someone, a third party, was seen in the field giving him the power, it would have counted as interference. But that power came from within him, so it could count as his, he explained. No matter how much he wanted to get that prick disqualified, technicalities played here are a real pain. He only hoped his cousin would quit. There is no shame in that. The Phoenix family was also in shock as they saw the power their son displayed. The Grimoire, fearing for their daughter's safety, had demanded to know where Razor got that kind of power. All they could say was they didn't know either. Lady Grimoire was openly shouting for her daughter to surrender. With the Mao, they watched the match with narrowed eyes. Akuja had already explained that the power Razor displayed was sealed within him, so he was not to be disqualified. Sears X wanted to end the match, but a few factors hindered him. 1. His sister would hate him if they had a countermeasure planned. 2. It would show favoritism by a Mao, and it would not good for a man of his status. Sarah Fall was now uncharacteristically serious as she looked at Razor with narrowed eyes. This power felt odd for some reason. Like it came from death itself. She could only do nothing as she knew interfering would cause a lot of problems for her. She could only hope Whiskers Tan has a super awesome power up to even the field. Grafia was also thinking similar thoughts. Back to the fight. Razor soon got over the shock from his sudden power boost. He had expected this power to just shoot up without his command. He felt relieved that it did, though, because he was about to pass out. It seems that his accomplice saw it fit to help him out more, and he appreciated that. He felt fresh, he felt power, and he felt like he could take on the world and win. He also berated himself for not taking the stranger's words to heart. Well, he won't make the same mistake twice. You see this, Rias, this is the power that you face. You stand no chance against me. Surrender and I won't damage my price, but if you don't, he finished his threat by making a small fireball which he launched into the small tree plantation there, which was reduced to ash in an instant. This was a testament of his power. But with all power-ups comes great complications and limitations, and Naruto knew that. His first sync with Kurama lasted a few minutes before it left him drained. And he lived with the guy since birth. He theorized that even though Razor was a phoenix, his body also has a limit to how much power it can take, especially if his body isn't used to this kind of power. Rias on the other hand looked at her peerage. She was glad that they fought alongside her to free her. They were her precious people and she wasn't going to put them in harm's way by fighting that monster. So the only option was to surrender. So she looked apologetically at her peerage, not friends. Everyone, thank you for your hard work, but this is the end. I am not going to let you get hurt badly for my sake. So I am going to. She was cut off by Naruto. Wait for 5 more minutes. We just have to survive that long before his power backfires on him. I admit plan A failed, so we go with plan B. And that would be, Akeno asked. Zirconis, how are we doing, buddy? Naruto asked his partner. In terms of power we are good, but ability-wise we are screwed. Only one from the small chicken has the ability that could help, but with that kind of power up, fighting fire with fire is pointless. We need more abilities to counter his flames, Zirconis replied. He had been analyzing the loot Naruto got from the fight and so far their abilities sucked. Naruto just grinned as the gears in his head started to turn. Oh, with those 3 they might stand a chance if he used them correctly. Don't worry buddy, I know just what we need. Looking at Rias and Akeno, girls please forgive me for this, but it's for a good cause. They looked him confused until, steal. And with that their panties were gone. They tried to look angry, but with the blush donning their face it came out as cute. What the hell did he take their panties for anyway? Naruto took a sniff of the panties the side in satisfaction. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. And don't worry Neko-chan, I am coming for yours on a later date. This prompted Kaneko to hold her skirt defensively while Asia pouted. Who knew the girl wanted in on the action. Alright, let's begin. Naruto brought out the loot in the Jade energy bubble. He put Rias and Akeno's panties in his pocket as he focused on the Jade bubble, or rather its contents, the spoils of war he liberated from his vanquished enemies. With a maniacal grin he started to eat, more like stuff his face, the undergarments like there was not tomorrow. It was like watching a pig eating a mountain of food. The others watched in horror as Naruto ate the underwear. No one could comment or even make a sound. Their mouths just hung open and they were lost for words. Guest viewing room. Tell me I am seeing things. Nope. This is actually happening, right? Yap. That's just sick, man. Back to the fight. Naruto had at last finished eating the undergarments in the bubble. He then focused his attention the 3 articles of clothing in his pocket. He started with Akeno's panties, whose owner just gave him a smile that promised him pain, lots of pain. Then he went on to Rias, who just looked away in embarrassment. Then went on to the last one, whose owner was trying to make herself as small as possible under her sister's gaze. Oh, Seraphal was going to have a field day when this is over. Oh, so that's why Sona wanted to kill Naruto, said Rias as she recognized her friend's panties. The others were just surprised that Naruto had the guts to steal the student council president's panties. Okay partner, how much space do I have in shelf so far? Just 2 slots are available so far, so choose your abilities wisely. Okay, give me lightning, water and pot, power of destruction, then shelf the phoenix ability and the light ability. I don't want Akeno to have more reasons to skin me alive. Everything else convert to power, said Naruto. His partner complied with his request. Converting 3 items to abilities. Abilities acquired. Shelving 2 abilities. Converting everything else to power. Adding to users. Power. And with that, for the second time during the match, another contestant got a massive power up. Naruto struggled a bit as he felt the power rushing into his body. It started to surge outward, forming a jade pillar that shot upwards. His sacred gear was pulsing with power but otherwise not changing. Naruto had never experienced power like this before. Well, he had, but the one he experienced was much more controlled than this one. Plus it was doing wonders to his body, it really hurt a lot. His teammates watched wide-eyed, more so Jade Dragon, who had no idea his fellow dragon could do this. If he got his hands, or rather claws, on Ophis or Tiamat's panties, shiver. Naruto's power had skyrocketed to match Razor's. It was amazing that Naruto had a trump card like this all along. It seems that he had planned ahead. Razor also could not believe what he was seeing. He thought he had the advantage, but this pawn keeps taking that away from him. It seems the stranger had also underestimated Naruto. Unknown location. What the hell? That sacred gear is a useless artifact. It shouldn't be this powerful. I know you had a hand in this fate," shouted our mysterious figure as it once again also underestimated Naruto. Back to the fight. Naruto had somewhat accustomed himself to the power boost thanks to his partner's help, but it still hurt though. He flexed his hands as he felt the power coursing through his body. He sighed in relief. Oh, how he missed having this much power. He looked at the fried chicken and smirked. "So Razor, what do you say you and me duck it out?" Guest viewing room. The guests were shocked by what they saw. They were shocked at the massive power-up that Razor had. But to think that Rias had a trump card of her own like this was unthinkable. When they first saw Naruto, they thought he was just a mega pervert and his sacred gear was weak. They expected the Red Dragon Emperor's wielder to gain some sort of power-up since his sacred gear was known to be capable to killing gods. They were expecting Issei to rise to the challenge, but those expectations were low since Issei was untrained and had only just been reincarnated. But to see this boy power up to this level was amazing. His power rivaled Razor, meaning that in terms of power they were almost equal. To think there was also a power-up sacred gear that could rival a Longinus sacred. This got them thinking, was that sacred gear also not a Longinus, and if so, how the hell did it cost just 1 pawn? That type of sacred gear should have cost a ton of pieces, so how did Rias reincarnate him with just 1 pawn? This raised a lot of questions which needed answering. Ha ha ha, that's unexpected. We all thought it was over, but Rias keeps surprising us. Saraorg was grinning like a madman. Who knew the pawn had that kind of power up? It made him also want to fight Naruto, not Razor. His power felt wrong on all levels of wrong. The power Naruto was producing was pure unadulterated power. From what he could see from Naruto, the boy was an experienced fighter, and coupled with his power up, well, things will not go well for Razor. Although Razor had the advantage of his regeneration and those bizarre flames of his. Okay, this is insane. How can a newly reincarnated pawn have that kind of power? And how come we haven't heard of his sacred gear before? Sekvera ranted as she watched a mere pawn surpass her in his first rating game. It was so embarrassing and humiliating. I mean, she was a king and she didn't have this kind of power. Sona was also equally shocked. She had thought that Rias was going to quit, but she didn't expect her to bust out her best card. She was feeling a bit jealous too. I mean, she already had 1 Longinus and she showed that she had a secret one hidden away. But how the hell did she reincarnate him with 1 pawn? The Mao were equally shocked by what they were seeing, more so Searzx. He thought that he knew everything about his sister and her peerage, but it seems that he was wrong. His little sister's peerage, even though they were few in number, had a lot of powerhouses. And she didn't tell him that she possessed 2 Longinus gears too. I have to say, Searzx, your sister keeps surprising everyone. It's amazing how she kept such a powerful player from everyone. This time it was Fulbium who was now wide awake. He woke up when he felt Razor power up. Then his sleep was totally wiped out when the pawn powered up too. It seems they were now as the climax of the fight, and the fight was going to be a good one. Yes, that a powerful sacred gear indeed, even if the way to power up is somewhat unorthodox. But it begs the question. If Rias reincarnated Issei with 7 pawns and was left with 1 normal pawn, how the hell did she reincarnate him? It should be impossible, observed Akuja as he narrowed his eyes at his friend. Was there a way around the evil piece system that Searzx exploited, or did he give his sister a mutated piece? Hey, don't look at me, I am just as shocked as you are, replied Searzx defensively. That pawn was weird. The way he fought was like a seasoned fighter, and coupled with his sacred gear. It just warranted a lot of suspicion. He will have to get to the bottom of this after the match is over to assess if he is a threat or not. As for Seraphal, well, she was at the edge of her seat, literally. She was excited by the power-up and she kept cheering Naruto on. This was the best rating game she had ever seen in her life, and she hoped that there will be more to come. Grafia just looked on with intrigue in her eyes. She thought that Pawn was a perverted goof who was good at tricking people, but she was wrong. She had to add powerhouse to his resume. Back to the fight. Rias, peerage, was in a state of shock as they felt rolling off from Naruto. The power was close to Razor's, and if he got a promotion he could outclass Razor. But the problem was his body seemed to be strained to hold the power, so it was a bad idea to go for a promotion. Asia seemed to be struggling just to heal the damage done by the power-up. But one thing was certain, this was their final stand and Naruto was their last hope. He would see it through to the end despite the pain he was in. Damn man, warn me next time about your power ripping me apart. Naruto told his partner in a joking manner to take his mind of the pain which was subsiding, but the damage still remained. I don't know what happened, partner. By all accounts your body should be able to handle it since you were used to it from your previous partners. I will take a look at what happening later, but for focus on the fight and don't do anything stupid to strain yourself even further, his partner cautioned him. This wasn't supposed to happen. It seems his body was ripping itself apart then regenerating at a slow rate. Razor on the other hand took Naruto's momentary distraction to attack first. He didn't want to hurt Rias, so he went for someone who would force Rias to surrender if hurt while also crippling their team. He went for Asia. Take out the healer and the others will fall easily. In a flash he was in front of, ready to burn her to a crisp. Said girl was a non-combatant, so she didn't notice him until it was too late. The others were too slow to react as Razor's fist came down on the poor girl. The fist however didn't make contact with its intended target as it was held in an iron grip by a very pissed off Naruto. Naruto had interfered just in time, but he had to curse himself for being distracted in battle. As he held Razor's hand he could feel his own hand being burnt by the blackish flames. Yeah, they were almost to the level of Amaterasu flames, well almost. So with his free hand he smashed his fist into the shocked Razor's gut, launching his away from his team. Naruto then looked at his hands. Both were burnt by the flames, which meant that hand-to-hand was a bad idea with those flames covering Razor like armor. He then felt his burns being healed by Asia, to which he smiled at the girl. He then ordered the others to retreat to their home base and cast multiple barriers to protect themselves from the fight. Before he went after Razor to told Issei to get a promotion to queen and support the others to strengthen the barrier. With that he shot off after Razor. Razor slowly got back up after being hit. It hurt like hell even with the fire protecting him and the additional power up. He looked up just in time to see a fist covered with power of destruction pot descending upon him. He dodged the fist, which hit the ground creating a huge crater. The two then traded blows, with Razor using his flaming fists and Naruto using pod-covered fists. As they fought it became apparent who the better fighter was. Even though Razor got a boost in speed and strength, it meant nothing to Naruto, who got almost the same boost as well. Naruto was destroying Razor in hand-to-hand, attacking areas that delivered a huge amount of pain. He is using the fighting style he uses in Boruto. I like that fighting style even though they underrated it a lot. He was attacking the solar plexus, face, back of the head, neck, ribs and even the nuts. After a while they disengaged from each other, which they analyzed their exchange. For Razor, as much as he didn't want to admit it, he was totally outclassed in hand-to-hand combat, so he decided to switch to long range. For Naruto though, he noticed a problem. When he used pod mode, as he liked to call it, his speed was very slow for his liking. Please note Naruto is very good at manipulating chakra, so it's easy for him to manipulate the other powers he got to an extent, of course. He thought of using lightning, which would increase his speed, but that would mean he would lose protection from those flames. Water was out of the question at the moment until he reduced Razor's power so that he won't be able to maintain his flame armor. So what to do? He didn't ponder much on it as Razor took off in the air and started throwing long-range blasts at him. Naruto did his best to dodge and counter them. Those blasts had some serious power behind them from the destruction they were causing. He was glad Issei got his promotion and was helping to strengthen the barrier, otherwise it would have forced Naruto to go on the defense. It seems also that the bastard had found his weaknesses. 1. He was inexperienced using pod, and 2. He was slow, which meant if Razor kept his distance he would wear Naruto out. So what the hell was he going to do? Light bulb something stupid. Naruto grinned as he deactivated pod mode. He then took time to calm himself as he was trying to do something stupid. Zirconis was confused before he realized what his partner was trying to do, judging by the power build-up. No, you can't, partner. With your current condition you can't handle the next level. Oh relax man, I am not going to do that, I am not that crazy. Okay, maybe I am, but I will not do that. I am using something less taxing but almost as dangerous to my health as the going to the next level, he, Naruto replied with a grin. Zirconis was confused until he felt how the power was moving, more specifically to abilities. He was trying to unlock another ability of the sacred gear, but that would put more strain on him. If Zirconis is seeing this correctly, then it was Naruto's only choice to dominate the fight. So he kept quiet as he actually prayed that his partner would not blow up or erase himself out of existence. It would be embarrassing for him and saddening. He liked his first partner a lot. He was then surprised when he felt the ability unlocked. Ability unlocked, activating ability merger. Abilities merged. Engaging lighting of destruction mode. And with that announcement, Naruto's power burst forth, forming armor like the Raikage's armor. It was Crimson Lightning. Naruto had succeeded in merging pod and lightning together. He take that Raikage. In the elemental nation I felt the urge to punch someone's lights out that had made a better armor than his. Guest viewing room. The guests were shocked to the core. If they thought that getting a power-up was not enough, they watched as Naruto used the fabled pod that made the Bale famous. But that wasn't enough. They watched as Naruto made it even better by combining it with lightning, which was impossible since pod could just erase the lightning affinity. It made everyone wonder just what the true capabilities of Naruto's sacred gear are. With the Mao, we find Ikuja laughing as he looked at his shocked friend. "Oh man, look at your face. I like this kid. I mean, not only did he somehow copy your abilities to a lesser extent, but he is almost a few steps closer on one-upping you." He was surprised to see Naruto's genius at work. To think that he could fuse two elements that are impossible to fuse to create a powerful defense and offense. He theorized that Naruto saw the disadvantages of pod and lightning, so he fused them both to get the best of both. This kid was something else. Sears just granted in annoyance as he watched Naruto now in his new armor. It was pretty impressive, and with more training he could see Naruto doing wonders. But what most people and him were thinking was, isn't that sacred gear a bit overpowered? Back to the fight. While Naruto's teammates were all gapping at his show of abilities, Naruto was grinning, although if you look closely you could see that he was in a lot of pain. Well, no pain no gain. Now that he had eliminated his weaknesses, time to finish the fight. Holding out his hand in a fist, he declared, "Alright you fried chicken, time to show you the power of panties. This is the embodiment of the hopes and dreams held by these panties. Go panty power." Everyone's sweat dropped. With insane speeds, Naruto started to speed blitz Razor from all angles. Razor never stood a chance against the new speeds and strength Naruto gained. It was like watching Lee playing pinball with Gaara. Razor tried to defend himself as much as he could, but it was all useless. All the defenses he put up were torn like paper, and worse, Naruto's strength seemed to have increased, which hurt a lot more than his previous hits. This was due to Naruto using speed as a source of additional strength. Naruto began to pulverize Razor with renewed vigor. He only had a few minutes at best before it was lights out for him. It seems his body was getting hurt even more, and it took all of his willpower to stay conscious. Worse, this new mode lasts about a minute by his estimation, which wasn't good for him. He could also see that Razor was almost at his limits, but he was still regenerating, meaning Razor could outlast him. All he had to do was to make him lose his armor before his mode runs out. His hopes were founded when, as soon as his mode ran out, Razor also deactivated his armor and his flames had returned back to normal. They both still had power, but Naruto was hurt big time. Hand to hand won't be a good idea at the moment. "It's okay Naruto, you have done enough, let us handle the rest," he heard Ria's concerned voice from the comms. It was a touching gesture. They also wouldn't last long. Asia was out of power and so was Issei. The others had strained themselves to sustain the barrier that protected them, meaning that they won't win against Razor. Don't worry about me. It's all part of the plan. Now time for Plan C, said a tired Naruto as he coughed up blood. "And what's Plan C?" came also an equally concerned voice of Issei as he saw his friend coughing up blood. Powerless or not, he couldn't stand and watch his friend suffer. "Simple. This is the last of all my plans before I log off. I am going to drowning and electrocuting him," and with the power he had left he extended his left hand as enacted his final trump card by taking a page from Zabuza. Water style. Freezing water prison, without sticking his hand onto the water sphere. And with that a ball of freezing water formed around the unsuspecting Razor. Naruto was surprised that the water affinity he got from Sona was so strong that he could manipulate the temperature of the water. So when Razor raised the water temperature to evaporate it, he would decrease the water temperature. This was a perfect counter to his flames. Razor was successfully captured in the water prison. He tried to evaporate it, but the water was so cold and his power was not enough to evaporate it. That's when he noticed the lightning in the pawn's right hand. His eyes widened when the lightning was launched at the water sphere and all he felt was pain. He tried to fight the pain and overpower the water but it was for naught. He couldn't breathe because of the water and he was being electrocuted, and worse, at some point the water temperatures rose so high it was like he was being boiled before they fell back the freezing point. He made the mistake of screaming in pain which caused him to choke from the water he swallowed. Soon his vision started to darken as he lost consciousness. He knew he had lost and he was about to die, but suddenly he disappeared from the arena before he could bite the dust. Damn, almost lucky chicken. Naruto grinned as he saw Razor disappear. Mission accomplished, he. He fell down on the ground as he waited for the announcer to declare their victory. Both kings have been eliminated. This match is a draw. I knew this wasn't my day, Naruto said before he passed out. So what happened to Rias? The mysterious figure, when it saw that Razor was about to pass out, made a last-ditch effort to fail Naruto's team. It opened a portal behind Rias and thrust its hand into her. It then drained Rias of her energy, making her faint. But what happened surprised even the figure. Rias held on until Razor passed out, then she also passed out. The figure didn't leave a wound on her to show evidence of foul play, and nobody saw what happened. No one even paid attention that Rias passed out a few seconds after Razor passed out. And so the historic rating game ended in a draw, just like a certain someone predicted. Guest viewing room. What the hell just happened? Rias was fine a moment ago, ranted Searsx as his powers flared, scaring most of the guests. Those observant were of the same opinion. Rias was fine and then she fell unconscious. They did an examination when she appeared and found that she lost almost all of her energy. Some attributed it to straining herself maintaining the barrier, but Akino was adamant that she still had more energy to fight. So investigations were launched, but it was clear they weren't going to find anything. Asia and Issei had also passed out after expending their energy. The rest had minor injuries which were treated quickly. The only ones in bad condition were Naruto and Razor. Both had exceeded their limits and their bodies showed it. Razor was regenerating but slowly. As for Naruto, he was out of power and his body was ripped to shreds. How he was still fighting was a miracle itself. Everyone in the room was impressed by the Rias team. They came and proved that they were strong and cunning. Even though they didn't win, they showed a spectacular display of skill. Sona was proud of her friend. She never thought that Rias would put this much of a fight. When the rest of the conscious members came into the room, everyone started to clap and cheer for them. It just showed just how much of a fight they put to impress everyone and earned the respect of everyone. But what everyone could conclude was this was the best rating games match ever. It will be talked about for days to come. A week later. A lot had happened during the week. Rias woke up a few hours after the match only to be told that the match ended in a draw. This meant that the marriage was still on. The girl was devastated. She cried while Akino and Sona tried to comfort her. Sona felt proud and sorry for her friend at the same time. She put up a good fight, but in the end she was back where she started. Rias also met her team minus Naruto, who was still unconscious. She did something that shocked her team. She bowed to them and thanked them for their hard work. She couldn't be any prouder of her peerage. They lost, true, but they fought with everything they had. She also spent a lot of time in Naruto's room waiting for him to wake up. The others visited most of the time, but she and Asia spend more time tending to Naruto than anyone else. She hoped that he would all of a sudden wake up shouting about ramen and Rias owing him a shitload of panties. She chuckled and blushed at the thought. However, what surprised her were the confusing feelings she was feeling whenever she thought of Naruto. When she thought about it, she noticed that she started to develop feelings for him. I mean, who wouldn't? He fought tooth and nail for her. He put his own health in jeopardy just so she could be free. That's just textbook knight in shining armor character, and most girls fall for that, her included. As for Naruto, he remained unconscious, although the damage had somehow magically healed overnight after the match. He was just in a coma, but he wasn't waking up even though everything was now fine. The chicken, on the other hand, took about 2 days to finally be able to move around. The first thing he did was announce the marriage between him and Rias. Everyone was surprised since the investigations as to Rias' sudden loss of power was still ongoing. The lack of evidence of foul play was Razor's excuse for pushing the wedding. The Phoenix and the Grimoire families were undecided after they watched just how Rias fought to get out of the marriage. But they still agreed that the wedding should be held in the next 5 days. So here we are in Naruto's room as our hero began to wake up. He looked at the ceiling to note that he wasn't in his room. The events of the match played in his mind as he remembered the announcer declaring the match a draw before he passed out. He just sighed as he hoped his hunch was wrong, but it seems fate had other ideas. He sat up and saw Asia sleeping with her head on the bed he was in. She was dressed up for some fancy event which he had no idea what it was. She looked cute while she slept. He shook the girl, who slowly woke up and saw Naruto awake. She just hugged him like her life depended on it. For a gentle girl, she sure was strong when she at certain times, and right now he could feel some bones breaking. After they separated, she informed Naruto about what was happening during the time he was in a coma. Some of the news was actually touching. It seems that he has made some precious people. Honestly, this phrase make me want to throw up. He just kidding, here. Only one person in his home world showed how she cared like this, and she was long gone. Just thinking about her brought a sharp pain in his heart that he was trying to hide when he got here. Asia didn't notice anything, but Naruto's partner did. But hearing about the wedding brought a sense of urgency in Naruto. He quickly shot out of the bed, noticing how he didn't feel any pain, just a little stiff in the muscles. "Naruto, are you sure you should be moving? You just woke up," shouted a frantic and blushing Asia, who tried to look away, but the image was already saved. Naruto was half naked, just wearing his boxer shorts, and someone decided to stand at attention, stretching the boxers quite a bit. Damn morning wood. Naruto didn't notice as he stretched a bit to remove the stiffness. "Yeah, I am fine, don't worry. In fact, I feel better than ever. Hey partner, are you up?" "Hello Naruto, how are you feeling? Do you feel weird in any way?" asked his partner, who was relieved but was a little nervous about something. "I am good. Why do you ask about me feeling weird?" asked Naruto. "Oh nothing, he. Zirconis laughed nervously, getting narrowed eyes from Naruto. Something was wrong and Zirconis is hiding it. No time for that now, gotta get to the wedding. First they teleported back to their apartment, where Naruto proceeded to get a few documents provided to him courtesy of a certain magical garment girl. Then he went on to his wardrobe and put on an outfit that got Asia and Zirconis to sweat drop. He was wearing blue jeans and an orange t-shirt. The t-shirt was printed something that would definitely piss off someone. In front and in the back was printed, "I love eating chicken," with a rooster in a weird pose. But the strange thing was that the rooster's head looked suspiciously like razors. When did he have time to do that? Lastly, he finished by buying a bucket of chicken drumsticks and he was all set. Now time to crush a wedding, ha 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 ha. Underworld Phoenix family house. We find the house filled with a lot of important devils who were invited to the wedding. You could see all of them were dressed in their fancy expensive clothes, and the women also spotted some jewelry to further their allure. Razor had made sure to spare no expense as he wanted his wedding to go down in history as the wedding of the century. Most of the devils were holding wine glasses as they discussed various issues, but the most prominent one being the rating game that occurred a week ago. It was the best rating game they had ever seen, and they doubted there would be another one that could top this one. Well, unless Ria's team participates against another all-female peerage. If only the game was made public, it would have been trending on DevilTube with an obscene amount of views. Too bad the others are missed out on such a bonanza, a true feast for the eyes. Ria's team was also there, with the exception of Rias, Asia and Naruto, for obvious reasons. All of them were wearing nice formal clothes, even Issei, although they had to bribe him with anime videos filled with oppai. The boy gladly wore the suit, he would do anything for oppai. The gang was depressed, and that was understandable. Their king was forced to marry a first-rate jackass who she didn't want to marry. They fought to the best of their ability and lost, and worse, their teammate was in a coma for who knows how long. They felt like they let down their king. They should have fought harder and given it their all plus extra. I am not gonna say plus ultra, hell no, that's All Might's thing. This is so depressing, guys, let's try to at least be cheerful. It is a wedding after all, Akino said as she tried to lighten up the mood. How can you say that? The prez is being forced to marry that jackass and you say we enjoy the wedding? Hell no, I am going to punch that jackass in the face the moment he shows up, Issei said with anger evident in his voice. He wasn't going to let his prez get stuck in a loveless wedding if he could help it. Era, how bold of you, but you won't make it to him. Not with all these powerful devils around, Akino replied, pointing to some powerhouses in the room that were drawn to their conversation. They weren't quiet about their displeasure and they didn't care. Then how about we wait after the wedding, then we all gang up on him and beat him to a bloody pulp, Kaneko suggested while smacking her fist into her palm and a menacing aura behind her. She knew the type of man Razor was and she was not going to become his glorified trophy to be used and discarded whenever he pleased. The others were surprised that Kaneko could suggest such a thing in a menacing voice, by the way. No, that wouldn't work either, he could just teleport with the president so he won't get a chance. Plus his healing ability is a pain in the ass, Kiba said, earning a pout from Kaneko. Era, don't worry about that. I have the perfect item to make sure that he won't bother us ever again. A little holy water in the wedding cake would do wonders to him. It's the perfect item to assassinate a Phoenix after all. Era. Akeno laughed creepily, which was mirrored by the rest of the gang while a dark aura began to surround them, making them look demonic. Nah, that would put a lot of heat on us since it would be too obvious. We wait until he gets a shower. A holy shower would do wonders for his ego. On second thought, since that guy is made of fire, that he even take a shower? Issei asked with a confused look. Those who were eavesdropping on their conversation just sweat dropped at the sheer audacity these people had. They were talking about assassinating a high-class devil in front of everyone and they were not even hiding it. Are we sure this wedding is a good idea? Just look at those guys, they might go along with that crazy plan of theirs. On second thought, make sure they don't get too close to the cake. And buy another one at that in case they already got to it. These guys sure are scary and they just ruined everyone's hopes to get a bite of the wedding cake. Who the hell would enjoy a wedding cake which could most likely have been sprinkled with holy water? Sona, who was heading to meet the gang with her queen, just sweat dropped. These guys sure have devious minds. But it was good that they were occupying themselves, otherwise that aura of depression would have lingered longer than it was needed. But she too shared in their sentiments. She didn't want this for her friend, and if she could do something she would. She also had some ideas floating in her head that were more subtle than what Rias Peerage was thinking. But she didn't have the stomach to execute them, plus if the assassination was traced back to her it would be bad for her family. She joined the gang as she waited for her peerage to arrive. They chatted about various things all the while her peerage arrived to keep them company and make sure they don't do anything stupid. Well, Naruto would do that anyway despite them trying to stop him. It was a good thing he was unconscious. Oh, she was so wrong. Soon the room was hushed as Razor entered the room. He looked as smug as ever as he headed for the altar to wait for his bride. His smugness only increased when he looked at Rias Peerage and saw the hatred in their eyes, but knew they can't do anything to him. Maybe a detour wouldn't hurt. Rias, Peerage plus Sonas saw Razor coming towards them. There were various reactions, with surprise being the most prevalent, followed by rage. Sup, my soon-to-be servants. How are you? Are you enjoying your last moments of freedom? Razor asked with smugness practically oozing from him. He was definitely pushing the right buttons because the moment he finished Issei lashed out at him but was held down by two of Sona's rooks who seemed to be struggling holding him down. Yes, stay down where you belong, you lowly servant. You reincarnated devils are beneath us, so eat dirt. Razor laughed as he railed Issei further. Oh, he was going to enjoy this verbal abuse since he couldn't do anything to them, yet. You know, for a guy that got his ass kicked by a newly reincarnated pawn worth a single piece, you sure are cocky. You really gave yous high-class devils a bad representative, you know, came the voice Saraorg from behind Razor. Saraorg had arrived to attend his cousin's wedding even though he didn't like what was happening. He didn't like Razor not one bit, and if he had an opportunity he would beat him to the ground. Razor, seeing Saraorg, just huffed. It really stung his pride to be reminded of his defeat at the hands of a mere pawn. But he had to save face, after all he was a high-class devil and this was his wedding. No one would ever dare do anything to ruin his mood except for this musclehead. He was the bridegroom after all. It was a fluke. If we were to fight one-on-one he would lose like his pathetic ingrate he is. Razor excused his loss while insulting Rias Peerage. For a guy marrying Rias, he sure doesn't waste any time insulting her friends and thereby indirectly insulting her. This rubbed Rias's peerage in a bad way, but the response came from someone they wouldn't expect. At least I got to stomp your nuts and clobber that stupid face of yours, Kaneko said in her monotone voice, but you could detect a hint of edge and amusement in it. Oh yeah, and I did the same thing to you too. And it felt good hearing you squeal like a girl, Issei added his 2 cents in before he felt the burning gaze of the girls around him. He quickly realized his mistake and corrected it. No offense girls, he. The not-so-subtle verbal jabs seemed to serve their purpose in pissing Razor off. The dude was angry but he couldn't do anything with Saroorg around, so he stormed off while planning to make them pay after he married Rias. The gang was left to thank Saroorg for the help, to which he just laughed it off. He quite enjoyed the jabs they threw at the chicken. Oh yes, he used that word. He had gotten so used to it after watching the rating games that he almost mistakenly called Lord Fennec's Lord Chicken. As the guys continued, Rias entered in her wedding dress. The girl looked stunning that everyone was mesmerized by the girl's appearance. What they didn't consider was the girl's face. She looked so sad, so defeated. What the heck was wrong with these people? Can't they see how depressed the girl was? The girl got to the altar where the priest went on to recite whatever it was that was recited at devil weddings. Do devils hire priests to officiate weddings? Anyway, Razor looked even smugger as he looked at soon-to-be wife. Oh, this was the best day of his life. Nothing can ruin this day. No one can ruin this event for him. That stupid pawn was in a coma. So he decided to rub it in Ria's face. He leaned forward and whispered into her ear. No one is coming to save you. Ria's eyes widened as tears threatened to spill out of her eyes. Just then the doors burst open as a guard flew through it and crushed at the other end of the room. Everyone was on edge as they prepared to defend against the attackers. I object, came a familiar voice from a very special someone. That voice caused Rias Peerage to smile with hope in their eyes while Rias looked like she was about to cry. Saroorg just smirked as he saw his new best friend, not that he told anyone, even Naruto, coming into the room. From the Naruto came in wearing something that was totally against the occasion, jeans and an oranget shirt with, "I love eating chicken," printed on it. Everyone's sweat dropped at his choice of clothing. They further sweat dropped while Razor and his family got tick marks on their head when they saw Rooster that looked like Razor on Naruto's shirt. Oh, and he was also eating a drumstick. "Ah, Naruto-kun, I don't think they had gotten to the vows yet," came the timid voice of Asia from behind him as she poked her head from his left side. Naruto just looked around for confirmation, which he got from his team. "Aw man, I came in too early. I wanted my entrance to be cool," Naruto pouted. The guests were surprised to see Naruto intruding on the wedding. This was an important event to the underworld. The fate of their species hang on those two's union. That's just bullshit. Even though Naruto had earned their respect, his team had lost and he had no right to interfere in this matter. But no one was more pissed than Razor. What are you doing here and how did you get in here anyway?" "We had stationed guards to prevent such a thing," Razor asked angrily. "How dare this ingrate intrude and ruin the best day of his life?" "Well, you should done a better job of putting capable guards and a better strategy. I mean female guards without panties. That's the most stupid strategy I have ever seen in my life. And most of them wouldn't have ended up like him," Naruto said nonchalantly as he pointed to the guard laying on the floor with something stuck in his behind. Flashback. Teleporting just outside the Fennec's mansion, Naruto had to whistle how large and extravagant it was. Well, he was not here to sightsee, he was here on a mission. To annoy a certain chicken. Entering the yard, Naruto and Asia were met with resistance in the form of the mansion's guards. There were about 20 of them guarding the front, meaning that there were extra guards stationed. For what? He could only have a few guesses. The lead guard stepped forward, drawing his sword before pointing at Naruto. "You are not allowed here. The girl can come but you are to leave," he said coolly. "You do know that I kicked your master's ass, right? What can you possibly do to me?" Naruto asked as he motioned Asia to stay back as he stepped forward. The guards stepped back a little before gaining their courage. They all rushed at Naruto with swords poised to strike. What happened next shocked everyone, even Naruto. He moved to knock them out but all the guards ended up embedded into the ground, all very much unconscious. All this happened in 10 seconds. Naruto was very surprised at the speed and strength that he displayed. He was sure that his gravity seals were on and he was very much sure that the speed and strength he displayed was 3 times faster and stronger than his base speed from during the tournament. "Wow, is it just me or did I become a lot faster and stronger?" Naruto remarked. He expected to hear a comment from his partner but he was strangely silent. Asia just sweat dropped as she followed Naruto into the mansion where they were met with more guards. "Are you kidding me? Your boss really hates me, right?" He gets a nod from the guards. "Is there any way you can just pretend that you didn't see me and let me pass?" He got a negative from the guards to which he just signed. Then he noticed a few female guards and smirked. Steal, Naruto announced his fearsome attack, but the guards just smirked. Naruto raised a brow until he noticed that he didn't get anything from his target. He blinked in confusion. They couldn't have developed a way to counter his technique that quickly unless you are not wearing any underwear, are you? So all of you ladies are commando. Naruto exclaimed in shock. Damn, Razor was one twisted SOB to force his guards to not wear underwear. He looked at the female guards and found them blushing in embarrassment. Well, his ultimate pervy technique was useless now. That was until he saw the woman he targeted shacking uncontrollable with a deep blush on her face. He also noticed a certain aroma coming from his fingers from the hand he used when he tried his technique. He brought his fingers closer, then smelled them. Yep, there is no doubt about it, he knew this scent. But how did it get to his fingers when he hadn't touched the woman's snatch? Maybe, just maybe. Let's test that theory out. Again he used his steal technique on another female guard. This time he used it for a while longer while willing his fingers to do a rubbing motion instead of a grabbing motion. He noticed that instead of the normal bright light accompanying his technique, his hand had disappeared all the way to the wrist. Moreover, he could feel his hand and it was massaging something wet with lips and no teeth. He then heard a squeal from his victim, solidifying his theory. Oh yes, Steel just got a mega evolution. His hand was literally teleported into the victim's pants where he was busy pleasuring the poor woman. Hell yeah, now time for some long-range molesting. So for the next minute and a half all the female guards fell prey to the combined might of the now dubbed long-range molesting and the touch of the arrow god. Let's just say there was a lot of erotic sound and fluids bursting and lots of nosebleeds that took out all the guards. After that, the very happy boy and a blushing Asia continued on with their journey until they came to the doors of the hall where the wedding was being conducted. It was also guarded and unfortunately by male guards. Again Naruto sighed. Would you please let us through? Naruto asked and again he got a negative. Please, I don't want to have to do something drastic. Okay, there is stupid, then there is dumb, and then there is ridiculously stupid. Ridiculously stupid is trying to fight the guy that mopped the floor with their master and also wiped out the guards before them. So what Naruto had to do was make them see the light. So when ridiculously stupid one came at him, Naruto quickly drew a chicken's foot from his bucket and shoved it up the idiot's ass. There was a lot of screaming and cursing with the others looking on in horror. Naruto wasted no time in doing the same to all the others, with the last one being kicked through the doors of the wedding hall. End of flashback. Well, look at that, it's really went in deep. That's what I call having a foot stuck up your ass, said their ever-cheerful Seraphal as she pocked the little piece of the chicken's foot that was showing. Leviathan-sama, please stop that, it feels so uncomfortable, groaned the poor guard. Everyone there instinctively held their behinds as they knew that really hurts like hell. Razor just growled, not caring about what happened to his guards. Get the hell out of here, or do I have to force you? And while you are at it, refer to me by my proper title like the lowly devil that you are, Razor commanded as he inched closer to Rias, who was still dazed by Naruto's sudden appearance. Akuja wanted to move in to interfere but was stopped by Searzex, who also signaled for the others not to interfere. He wanted to see where this was going before he plays his cards, plus with that old coot here he would have to be careful. Also when Naruto is around this become very lively. Naruto looked at Razor with a raised brow, not at all threatened. You want me to refer to you by your proper title? Which one? I mean, in history you are the only one to carry so many titles. There is douchebag, jackass, bird brain, asshole, KFC, rooster, chicken nuggets, drumstick, yakitori, etc. So which one would you like? Also, if I am a lowly devil who beat the crap out of you, what does that make you? Razor's brow twitched violently at the jab Naruto threw at him. He could also hear some stifled sneakers from the guests. Oh, he was going to kill this kid. But he wasn't given a chance to formulate a comeback as Naruto continued while he addressed the rest of the guests. And what the hell did you all come here to see? A wedding? You guys really disgust me. Look at the bride, she looks miserable and has been crying, and here you are enjoying yourselves. She made it clear she doesn't want to marry that dipstick and you are clearly forcing her. Just be glad that she is reasonable, otherwise she would have taken a few drastic measures to get out of this marriage. She could have just killed herself, but she cares so much for her friends. Or my personal favorite, since it's a marriage between Rias Grimoire and Razor Phoenix, she could have just announced the Grimoire name and just be Rias. But she still loves her family even though they clearly don't care about her. You Grimoire are a family and yet you have caused your daughter so much pain. Instead of spending her teen years doing what girls do, she was forced to devote most of her time trying to find a way to get out of this stupid marriage. And don't let me get started about that stupid class system that you put in place. After Naruto's rant, which from what they could see hadn't ended yet since he was taking a few breaths to calm himself, the audience had time to reflect to what they had done. Were they really that bad? Looking at it, the bride seemed very unhappy about the marriage and they ignored it. They were basically celebrating someone else's torment. Some rationalized that it was all for the good of their kind, but some had doubts. Were they so different from the old faction if they were doing this to their kind? The ones to be hit worse were the Phoenix and the Grimoire family, especially the Grimoire. For the Phoenix it was shame and remorse they were feeling. They knew that their son was bad for the girl and that the girl refused him the first time they met. They should have done something to change their son's character, maybe they wouldn't be in this mess. It seems that they messed up as parents in raising Razor. The Grimoire felt so much shame like never before. Their daughter was distressing for all these years, all because of them. She refused the marriage when she met Razor. They too met him and knew he was an ass, but they forced their daughter into that marriage. What if she took drastic measures like what that pawn said? What would have happened to their family? Was the devil race worth sacrificing their daughter's happiness? hsdxd felt even worse. He professed love his sister, damn Siskin, but he didn't do much to help her. He knew she was hurting and what did he do? Nothing, well except for the rating game idea, but that was after years of pain. Enough of this foolishness. The wedding will continue whether you like it or not. Our race depends on it, came a loud commanding voice. hsdxd just sighed. It seems the old coot has decided to act. He is a real pain. Let's see where this goes. Maybe Naruto has something up his sleeve. The whole room was silenced by that voice and Naruto turned to see an old man, not that old in appearance but in posture, coming towards them. He radiated authority, and from the way Razor was reacting to him he seems to be someone important. Worse, this guy gave him a Danzo vibe. He was tempted to outright call him Danzo. The man looked at Naruto with a look that gave him bad vibes, but he stood his ground. He had faced worse after all. And who might you be, old man? Naruto asked. Everyone's sweat dropped at the blatant disrespect to one of the most influential and respected devil in the underworld. The old man in question just looked at him without even changing his facial expression. I am Zekram Bale, leader of the Bale clan, he said as he tried to gauge the reaction of the young man in front of him. He was sadly disappointed as the boy just shrugged and said okay, and that's it. There were so many things he wanted to say to this stupid boy about respecting his superiors, but that would be wasting time. There was a wedding to enjoy after all, so he will cut to the chase. Young man, I would advise that you shut up and don't disturb the wedding. As you know, if your king told you anything, purebloods are becoming fewer in number, so it is apparent that this union happened. We need to preserve the purebloods after all, the man said. Naruto just looked at him as he digested what the old man said before something occurred to him. He had seen this happen in the elemental nations a lot. Seriously, that's the reason for this wedding. This is a bunch of baloney and you know it. If the situation was as dire as you make it to be, then those three, pointing at the three male Mao, would be having harems right now, popping purebloods left, right and center. But no, that's not the case here, which leads me to believe that there is another motive behind this marriage. Like trying to merge Pod and the power of the Phoenix clan. This is too obvious. You guys would sacrifice my king's happiness for this, Naruto almost shouted after he pieced together the main reason of the wedding, but he settled a serious face. The younger generation looked shocked while the older generation looked surprised that he pieced it together that quick. True, the main reason for the marriage was to try and merge bloodlines to produce an even stronger one, but chances of that happening were slim. It was either the child gets either one of the parents' bloodline or none at all. And also yes, the situation wasn't dire as they made it out to be, otherwise they would have made them out to have harems despite the law that Mao should have one partner. Rias looked shocked and looking to her parents, who looked away from her, confirmed what Naruto said was true. She looked devastated that her parents would do this to her, their own daughter. It was at this time that her peerage was by her side, comforting her with the boys standing protectively in front of them. Issei looked ready to explode in rage. There was division in the room as the younger generation looked at the older generation like they were monsters. True, they were devils, but they wanted to do things differently from the old faction, but it seems they failed spectacularly. As for Naruto, he was having second thoughts about revealing his hunch, but it had to be done. Sometimes you need to do things the hard way to get results. Seeing the commotion in the room, Zekrom lost his composure for a moment before he reined his feelings under control. This kid has a big mouth, and what he did had caused division among the devils, something they didn't need. Time to remind him where his place is. Now listen here, boy, this wedding is happening whether you like it or not. It's for the good of our kind. We need all the power we can get. There is nothing you can do about it. It was decided and both clans signed a contract, and according to devil law all contracts must be honored, Zekrom said as he put the final nail in the coffin. Contracts were important in the devil community, meaning breaking a contract would risk shaming the family. Zekrom further cemented his point by releasing a portion of his power, scaring most of the guests while the Mao got ready to step in. Naruto, on the other hand, just raised a brow before he released his own power and was surprised to find that it had risen to high-class levels. What he didn't notice was the torrent of water forming around his feet like a tornado, and an aura of lighting of destruction formed around him. Everyone else noticed and were surprised by this. What contract are you talking about? As far as I know, there is no contract between the Phoenix and the Grimoire, Naruto said with a smirk. This was the final plan that he had if all of his plans failed. He took out a certain document and gave it to Rias to read the highlighted parts. The girl went over the parts Naruto highlighted before she rubbed her eyes to make sure she was not seeing things. She looked at Naruto, who mouthed checkmate to her. You had this all this time and you didn't tell me, she asked as a dark aura formed around her. EHUC. He didn't get to finish as the girl pounced on him, then started beating him like a crazy animal. It gradually ended with the girl crying while muttering thank you over and over again. Sona picked up the document before she read herself and blinked. What the hell? How did she not see this? This could have saved them the trouble years ago. What was she reading? The contract law, of course, the amended one. It stated in the fine print that if any of the two people marrying to solidify a contract refused, then the contract was null and void. This meant that when Rias refused to marry Razor, she basically voided the contract, making her a free devil. The document was passed along to everyone who read it. Sears X was crying anime tears as he missed this part. He had looked high and low for an exit for his sister but failed to find anything. Sarah Fall was just whistling innocently while sending a wink to Naruto. She was the one who made the amendment and gave Naruto that specific document, although he could have gotten it either way. Zekrom was pissed that there was such a law and he didn't know about it. Soon all those who will be forced into arranged marriages would start refusing, canceling many potential contracts. Curse this stupid pawn. The Grimoire and the Phoenix looked shocked. So the supposed contract they signed wasn't a contract at all. They had wasted a lot of time and resources, and all for what? Nothing. For the Grimoire there was also a chance they might lose their daughter because of their stupid mistake. Naruto, seeing his part done, picked up Rias' bridal style, earning an eep from the girl and a glare from Asia. Before making their dramatic exit, Naruto saw it prudent to remind them of something. Before I leave, I think it's good to remind you that you owe me a lot of money, and for certain people I will need something else from you. Have a good day. And with that, Rias' peerage teleported away, leaving a bewildered people except for a few. They remembered the bet they made before the rating game and they lost spectacularly. As for Razor, the poor guy was left on the altar. Zirconis, however, was dreading the conversation he would have with Naruto. When he was roaming around in Naruto, he found a number of things that were odd, but the worst was that he found the seal like Naruto asked him to. The damn thing was empty. All the beasts were gone. Goddess realm. There were a number of goddesses assembled in the hall discussing Naruto's progress. So far after his stunt in the rating game and crushing the wedding, he had earned a lot of points. In the center of the hall was a figure wearing a white linen dress, only showing that she was female. She seemed to be the center of attention for now. As the discussion taking place, our mysterious figure entered the hall, eliciting the whole room to quiet down. The figure slowly walked to the center of the hall where the girl in white was. Looks like your crazy plan worked. Forcing him into that situation brought out his hidden potential. But are you sure it was a good idea? He will flips when he finds out Razor's power-up was your plan, said a goddess who seemed to be leading the meeting. I wouldn't worry about that. He has a good heart, he will understand. However, if he flips sheep pointing to the girl in white will handle him. Plus I am sure he will be very happy if we give him his chakra back minus Sage of Six Paths of course, the mysterious figure reasoned. The others nodded at the reasoning. Are you going to meet with him? Another goddess asked. Yes I am. I have waited long enough to meet my payment. I think it's time I explain things to him. Well, good luck Shinigami. We are all counting on you. While the DXD verse was dealing with Naruto's shenanigans, let's see what was happening in the elemental nations. After the war, all the major and minor villages decided to sign a non-aggression pact with each other as well as solidifying their alliance. They also formed a joint squad consisting of shinobi from all villages. This squad was meant to protect the peace that they formed as well as take on huge threats that might occur. So overly there was peace in the world which was threatened by a certain aspect. The issue of the war criminal Sasuke Uchiha. After he got his ass kicked, Konoha decided to swoop in and capture him. The council, refused put him on international trial knowing he will surely receive the death sentence. This caused some tension between Konoha and the rest of the villages. Sasuke was then tried by Konoha and received a year in jail followed by 2 years community service with his chakra sealed off. The reason was that he played a major part in the war, as if. This pissed off a lot of people, mostly Tsunade and Hiashi. The reason being that he killed Hinata when she had her back turned. Tsunade after the farce of a trial resigned as Hokage and gave it back to the fourth, who along with his family appeared and helped during the war. Right now we find Tsunade in front of a certain grave of a very special someone in a location only a few people know. She had just placed a new set of flowers before she began to speak. Hey Hinata, how are you? I know you can't hear me but I will speak my mind anyway. It's been a year now since Naruto left. When you died he was left broken. You were the one who completed him and when you were taken he changed. She sighed as she remembered that day. The pain that filled her heart is losing her soon-to-be daughter-in-law. She remembered how broken Naruto was as he blamed himself for her death. She remembered his rage as he almost killed Sasuke had not Konoha stopped him. But the damage was done. Sasuke was left broken, his right hand missing along with the special Rinnegan given to him by the Sage of Six Paths. Oh, and his balls were toast. That was officially the day Naruto declared he had enough of Konoha. This is way he took the deal. Originally it was supposed to be him and Hinata going to a new world, then if they like it they would take a few people when the time was right. But that did not go as planned. So he wanted to get away from it all before he goes crazy again. She only wished Naruto's guardian, the one who raised him, from when he was 6 up to when he was 13, was here. She was the only one apart from Hinata who knew how to calm him down. Naruto had told him about his secret guardian, although not that much since her identity was still a secret. She took care of him secretly when he was kicked out of the orphanage. She was the one who taught him a lot about morals and she was the one that helped him not to turn out like Gaara. She was also the reason Naruto and Kurama became friends when he was 10. The day Tsunade came to Konoha when he was 13 and adopted Naruto, that was the day she disappeared without a trace. But Naruto held her in high regards. Anyway, Tsunade talked at Hinata's grave for a while before she went back to her estate in Konoha. These days she mostly kept to herself, waiting for Naruto to return and get her out of the hellhole she was in. Shizune was in charge of the hospital, but even she wanted to leave the place. They also wanted a fresh start away from all this disaster. As she got closer to her home she saw the last she wanted to see, the last people she wanted to see. The first was Jiraiya, who was supposed to be Naruto's godfather. He was supposed to take care of Naruto but was not seen until the Chunin exams when Naruto was 13. That was only because he was supposed to train Naruto, of which he did a horrible job of it. Worse, the only thing he did for Naruto was buy him a freaking wallet and that's it. No wonder he and Naruto didn't see eye to eye after Tsunade let it slip that Jiraiya was his godfather. He neglected Naruto when he needed someone the most, then comes back and tries to get into his life like nothing happened. Next were the Namikaze family. The parents she had a huge beef with, but the children she was neutral. After Minato was spared by the Shinigami he became paranoid that the masked man would come after him and his family. So he had the bright idea of faking their deaths to throw of their enemies. During the sealing he had split the 9 tails into 3 parts. He divided the yin part into for his 2 younger children and gave all the yang to Naruto, so yeah, in this story they had triplets. It's overused, I know. So he thought that it was a good idea to leave Naruto in the village as its Jinchuriki while he took the rest of his family. The plan was to go into hiding and see what the masked man would do, then come back in 7 years. And true, the masked man did come looking for him in the village twice. The first was when Naruto was 6 and when Naruto was 10, but someone always interfered. So this increased his fears and moved his plan to come back when Naruto was 16. At this age the children would be able to defend themselves. However, he did not count on the Shinigami tricking him. The seal with the yin had a timer in which the yin would go back to the yang in 15 years without killing the Jinchuriki. So imagine his surprise when he discovered the seal gone from his children in the 15th year. As for Kushina, she was against the idea of leaving Naruto in the village at first but had to accept the logic after some convincing from Jiraiya and the third. But it really took a lot to convince her. Her fears were increased when she heard the masked man came after Naruto twice. She feared for her son but was glad he was okay. This also solidified the thought that if the masked man had come after all of them he would have succeeded. Pain's attack didn't help either. The other 2 members were the second-born, a girl with blonde hair tied into a ponytail named Naruko. And the last-born, a boy with red hair named Menma, sorry again overused. I couldn't find any other names. They wanted to meet their brother very much. When they heard that he was attacked they wanted to go and help, but what could they do, they were children. Then they heard that he faced off and defeated the leader of the Akatsuki who leveled Konoha with 1 jutsu. This impressed them and their family. It also showed that those 2 were not yet ready to go into the world, comparing their brother's power to theirs. When the war started they immediately joined in order to fight alongside their brother. A lot happened during the war. Meeting up with the shinobi. Developing easier ways of sealing the reanimated beings, running into Sasuke, Naruto falling for Sasuke, the final battle, and finally Naruto going on a rampage. They weren't there when Hinata was killed so they didn't know. But what hurt them was the disappearance of Naruto. They had finally mustered the courage to talk to him, but the next day he was gone without a trace. They knew Tsunade knew where he was but she wouldn't tell them. Tsunade just wanted to be left alone, but these people are becoming a major pain. Jiraiya seeing her was the first to react. "Hello Haim, looking good as always," Jiraiya said as he tried to charm her for the millionth time. Honesty, this is getting very old and the dude can't take a hint. Tsunade just sighed. "What do you people want this time?" she asked as she massaged her temples waiting for the incoming headache. "Please Tsunade, tell me where my son is. We want to talk to him and explain ourselves," Kushina pleaded with her before the others could even say anything like they planned. She was desperate to reconcile with her son. Tsunade just sighed. "I am sorry Kushina, I don't know where he is," she said. It was true, she didn't know where he is, all she knew was he was in another world, but which one was the question. "But you have to know. You are the last person to see him." This time it was Minato who spoke. "When I said I don't know, I really don't know. All I know was he was given a challenge or a mission if you will, and as part of the deal he will stay where he is if he likes the place," Tsunade answered. She had been withholding this information for too long, maybe if she said something they will leave her alone. "What deal, mission?" shouted everyone. Oh yeah, there were some of the rookies from Naruto's generation who were hiding, trying to listen in on the conversation. Not that Tsunade didn't know they were there. A while ago Naruto and Hinata made a deal with some deities that after the war they would go to another world to do a challenge of some sort. You have to understand that this world brought a lot of pain to Naruto, and coupled by Hinata's death and the stunt you pulled with the Uchiha, he really wanted to get away from here. So when they came he took the deal even though he was alone. The way I think of it, it's like he is on vacation for an unknown period of time. The others were surprised by the information they received. They had no idea felt like this. If they knew they might have done something. They felt so ashamed of themselves, but one question remained. Where did they take him? Shikamaru asked. To another world. DXD world. After the drama at the Phoenix mansion, Naruto and the others teleported to the club room. After that they all celebrated their king's freedom, along with Naruto getting another round of ass kicking for withholding such important information from their king. She wouldn't have to put her peerage on the line during the rating game, and she certainly wouldn't have been worried during the wedding. She would have acted for goodness sake. Naruto's excuse was one the Mao would immediately spot that she was acting, and two, this was the best way to gauge her peerage's strength when they fight at their best. Both were satisfactory answers to the others. So everyone dispersed when Graphia came to take Rias to her parents. It seems they wanted to talk to her. The girl complied, but not before asking Naruto how he used pod aura and other abilities, if the abilities were temporary. This surprised Naruto, so he asked Zirconis, who kept quiet for some reason. Naruto obviously knew what Zirconis' silence meant. They would have to discuss things first alone before the others knew. So everyone went home. When he got home with Asia, immediately went to his room and locked the door. "Alright Zirconis, what's wrong?" Naruto asked. At first Zirconis was quiet, thinking of what to say first and how to say it. "Naruto, I found a number of things that I wasn't to discuss with you, and some of them will make you freak out. Just give it to me straight, Doc. How bad is it?" Naruto said, sounding like a patient who is awaiting bad news from the doctor. Zirconis just sweat dropped. "Well, for starters, where the hell did you get the scabbered? That a legendary item used only by one being," Zirconis said. He was very surprised when he saw that item in Naruto. It also explains why he healed so fast and why he didn't outright pass out during the raiding games. It also explains why his devil form is only temporary unless he wants to make it permanent. "Oh, that. When I came here after I received your gear, that goddess or whatever she was gave it to me. She said the owner wanted me to have it. I don't see the big deal as long as no one, especially devils and angels, don't find out," Naruto replied in a non-caring manner that made Zirconis' sweat drop even further. "So tell me, how the hell did I retain those abilities?" "I thought you said it's temporary," Naruto asked. "Well, blame your freaky body for that. In all my life I have never seen a body as weird as yours. As soon as you activated those abilities, your body assimilated them. Which explains why your body was ripping apart and repairing itself. It was rewriting your DNA to include those abilities. Which means that those abilities are now yours," Zirconis said. He was honestly surprised when he discovered what Naruto's body did. It was very rare to see a human body with an ability like that. To even surprise him further, his body also assimilated the merged elements. This boy would become very dangerous given the right abilities, and with the rate his power is growing. As for Naruto, this was one of the few times he was glad to have Uzumaki blood. The Uzumaki were known to have weird bodies, which explained their destruction and why Orochimaru wanted to experiment on him. So this means that he would have to train in the abilities he obtained, plus he also has 2 more in shelf to assimilate. "So is there anything else that's out of place?" Naruto asked, feeling that there was something else Zirconis was not telling him. Said Dragon started to sweat as he was trying to find a way to tell Naruto about his missing tenants. "You remember that assignment you gave me of trying to access the seal, right?" Naruto nodded as he remembered. Since most of his abilities were sealed off, it meant that even his access to the tailed beast seal was gone. He had tried to talk to his friends but no luck. So he came up with the idea of having Zirconis try and talk to them. "Well, I managed to get into the seal since I reside in a sacred gear." "Well, the thing is, the seal is empty," Zirconis dropped the bomb. "Come again?" Naruto asked as he thought he misheard the dragon. "I said the seal is empty, there is no one there," Zirconis repeated. Naruto just froze. His friends were gone. His long-life friend Kurama was gone, Hinata was gone. What the hell did he do to deserve this? Wait, but he was still alive, right? Which means maybe he was still tied to them. But as also could be that scabbard keeping him alive. This thought really depressed me. However, there is a message left for you. When I find a way to get you inside the seal, I will take you immediately, Zirconis said. Thanks man, I appreciate that. Maybe there is something in the message that will explain everything, Naruto said as he sighed in sadness. It seems that his loved one leave him one after another. So the boy got into bed and went to sleep. A few days later, Naruto woke up with a start. He was sweating profusely and he was out of breath. He looked around and saw that he was in his room. He sighed in relief, but his eyes were filled with sadness. He just collapsed back into bed trying to get the nightmare out of his head. Why the hell is this happening now of all times, Naruto thought. Meanwhile his partner sighed. It seems that he has fully accepted being a pervert, so his normal life is catching up to him. The perverted feelings were helping him forget his past, but know that he is used to them. His mind is reverting back to the past, meaning he will be having nightmares. He then woke up and made breakfast for him and Asia. During breakfast he noticed that Asia was worried about something, and he also noticed that she wanted to ask something but was shy to speak out. Well, whatever it was, she will say it when the time is right. They had a trying week, so they just need to rest. Maybe. Hey Asia, since we are free today, let's go out and have fun, Naruto asked. The girl has always been with her ever since that fateful day. So it's only right for him to do something for her. Asia also painfully reminds him of Hinata. The similarities are so astounding that he would have thought she was Hinata's counterpart in this dimension. So he took the excited girl to town where they did all sorts of things, not the naughty stuff pervs. They then went to the arcade and played some games. Naruto won the girl some plushies which she was grateful for. They then went for lunch, then went shopping, which was a big mistake. Even though Asia used to be a nun, she was still a girl, and as a girl she really had an innate love for shopping. After their somewhat date, even though Naruto refused to call it that. As they got closer home, Naruto sensed something. That something was powerful, but it was suppressed so that only he could sense it and no one else. So he instructed Asia to go home before he headed to the place where he sensed the being. When he got there he saw no one, only a black cat. Okay, now that's weird. He sensed no illusions, no spells. There was just him and the cat, which was strangely staring at him, so he knew the cat was the being he was looking for. Okay, I am here, what do you want? Naruto asked as he prepared for a fight. The cat continued to stare at him, which creeped him out. Then it did something that scared the shit out of him. The cat transformed into someone who scared everyone in the elemental nations. He thought he left this guy in the elemental nations. The freaking Shinigami. The Shinigami looked at Naruto in his translucent self, then it spoke in a distorted voice, "Hello Naruto Uzumaki. It's been a long time, hasn't it?" Naruto stood rooted to his position. There is no way in hell he can take on the Shinigami and walk out alive. If he tried to alert the others, they will only get killed, and he didn't want that to happen, so he had no choice but play along. Yeah, it's been too long. I thought I left you in the elemental nations. Naruto asked, his voice trembling a bit. Zirconis was also freaking out. There is no way he was going to win against a death god. Even those two idiots White and Red would fail. Sniff sniff, wait, what's this? Oh, this is so fortunate of them. They could use this to their advantage. Oh, I am well connected to follow you here. Oh, and just look at you. You have grown so much. I remember the time I held you in my hands. You were just the most adorable little thing I have ever seen, the Shinigami said while he gushed at the thought of baby Naruto. Meanwhile, Naruto and Zirconis looked disturbed by the scene in front of them. Is this the Shinigami or someone else? Because there is no way in hell the Shinigami can act like this. Damn Naruto, just how cute were you to have the Shinigami act like this? Zirconis asked. How should I know? I was just a baby. I have pictures if you want to see them, the Shinigami suggested to Zirconis. Okay, now that's just wrong on so many different levels. What the hell does the Shinigami want with his pictures? Anyway, I came here to apologize for the way I have been acting. You see, the one who has been causing you so much trouble ever since you got here was me, the Shinigami said. Now this caught Naruto off guard. The Shinigami was apologizing to him. For what exactly, and why apologize? He is the freaking death god. Now that Naruto thought about it, the crappy, not so much, sacred gear and Razor's power boost, that was the Shinigami. Why? Naruto asked in a monotone voice. Yeah, he was pissed. Well, to be honest with you, I kinda got impatient. For you to understand, let me ask you this. Do you know the reason why your parents are alive? The Shinigami asked. Now that got Naruto thinking. He never really thought about it before as to why they were alive, because he was angry with them for abandoning him. As he thought about it, he feared that his speculations would be true. They sold my soul to you in exchange for them, didn't they? Yes and no. Your father was an idiot. When I told him that he would live everything else, he tuned out as he was busy celebrating. I exchanges his soul and healing your mother for you. Don't get me wrong, he didn't sell you. He just signed a contract involving you, the Shinigami explained. And what kind of contract is that? A marriage contract, the Shinigami said in an excited voice. What? Both Naruto and Zirconis shouted. Of all the things that would happen on Naruto's first day on Earth, being engaged to the Shinigami was the most shocking. Why would the Shinigami want to be married to him? There were plenty of other beings much more suited than him. And did the Shinigami literally cradle Rob? Plus how would this work because he was sure that the Shinigami was a male and the last time he checked he was straight. He is into girls, not a dude that looks like a mating ritual gone wrong between a zombie and an evil spirit. Sniff sniff. Okay, maybe he was too quick to judge, but that aroma definitely belongs to a female. So the Shinigami is female, good to know. But still that face is horrible. As if reading Naruto's inner turmoil, the Shinigami began to laugh. Come on, do you think I look like this? This is just a prank I came up with to play on humans, the Shinigami said as she disappeared in a poof of smoke. When the smoke cleared, what Naruto saw made him glad that he was engaged when he was a year old. When the smoke cleared, Naruto saw a very beautiful woman. She had purple hair tied into a ponytail, golden eyes and chocolate-colored skin. She was slender but possessed all the right curves in all the right places. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Yoruichi Shihoin, a Shinigami, not the Shinigami, captain of the 2nd Division of the Gote 13 inches, Yoruichi said with a smirk. Poor Naruto was frozen stiff looking at this goddess. In his head a chibi Naruto was doing a victory dance. Okay, she might have tried to kill him, that to hell with it, she is hot. After collecting himself, Naruto began to ask questions like what the Gote 13 was and why choose him. The answer to the second question was funny. She said she wanted to sink her claws into him before the other goddesses did. Apparently future Naruto was a hit among the females in the divine realm. Also the reason why she was pissed was he went to another world and that he became a devil of sorts. So his lifespan has increased, meaning their marriage would take longer to happen. Since she is forbidden to marry a person when he is alive, she has to wait until he dies, which isn't anytime soon. The two chatted for a while before Yoruichi's time was up. Sorry to cut this short, but I have to go. But to say sorry again, we have decided to unlock your chakra. Your second gift will arrive within the week, Yoruichi said. Okay, but I want something else. Give me them panties, they smell nice, Naruto said with a pervy grin. Soon, just be patient because as of now your body can't handle my power. Plus you will have plenty of panties from me and a few goddesses. So have fun with your girls, Yoruichi said as she kissed Naruto and disappeared, leaving a once again frozen Naruto. After a while, Naruto decided to test if the seal was gone. The first thing he did was form a Rasengan, which appeared a second later. Oh, there you are, my beautiful blue ball of pain. Oh, Papa missed you so much, Naruto said as he cuddled the Rasengan closer to his face but not making contact. Zirconis just sweat dropped. After Naruto saw that his chakra was back full swing, he suppressed it, that disappeared in a body flicker. He will tell the others about his chakra ladder after he plans a prank on them. As soon as Naruto disappeared, Kaneko arrived and looked around. She couldn't find anyone, but she was sure she sensed large amounts of chakra here. She will have to report it to the president when she comes back. She wasn't the only one drawn to the chakra spick. A certain black cat had also arrived as soon as the chakra disappeared. It looked around for a trail but there was none. So the cat settled on looking at Kaneko. When Naruto got home, he found Asia and surprisingly Rias. When did she get back? And what with the gloomy atmosphere? Those two looked at him with concern, which confused him. Something must have happened that made them feel this way. Hey Rias, when did you get back? I just arrived after Asia called me, Rias replied. Alright, now what the hell is going on and why did Asia call her? I will get straight to the point. Are you okay, Naruto? She asked as she looked him dead in the eye. Okay, that's weird. Of course I am, why wouldn't I be? Who is Hinata? This time it was Asia that asked. Naruto stood frozen, eyes widened. How the hell did they know that name, and how did they figure out this was the issue bothering him? Where did you hear that name? Thank you for listening. I do hope you guys enjoy. If you guys enjoyed this, what if you want a next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below and turn on the bell notifications, and also check out the other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.